Good morning, DFS. Welcome into week 18 of one of the most accurate DFS shows in the industry. This is the Adjusted Line Play Report presented by Zilla Fantasy Elite. I am your host, Todd Hoffman. You can find myself over on Twitter at Todzilla1337. You can find Zilla Fantasy Elite over on Twitter at Zilla Fantasy. We are in week 18, folks. It is Saturday morning, January 7th, 7 in the morning Central Time. Today's show powered by Rain Total Body Fuel. Are you looking to make it rain some cash in DFS? Tune in to the Adjusted Line Play Report from Zilla Fantasy Elite. Follow host Todd Hoffman while he delivers the most accurate DFS advice in the industry and make it rain. All right, today's flavor, folks, Rain Inferno Red Dragon. Gonna make us sweat. It's a thermogenic. Real good flavor there. Rain makes the greatest energy drinks on the planet. Let's not forget it. We're going to make it rain some cash for you guys in DFS this week. Considering that a lot of these teams are not going to be playing to their full extent, starter sitting, backups in there, we're just going to treat this week a little bit differently. We're going to go through every single game, just top to bottom, as it's going to be played in chronological order, basically. So we're going to get into the two Saturday games, get the Sunday morning games or early games, and then go into the Sunday later and evening games, and that's how we're going to approach it. Way too many things going on to keep track of, so I'm really just going to go through here. I'm going to say, hey, this is a good matchup for this team's pass game, this team's run game. Hey, they're going to be under pressure. It should be more targets for the tight end, running back, things like that. You guys have to make the decisions on who you think it is that's going to be beneficial or benefiting from that particular matchup. And that's how this show is going to go. Getting into the Saturday game, we have Kansas City 9-point home favorites, 30.75 team implied total. Vegas 21.75 team implied total for a 52.5 Vegas game total overall. I believe that's the highest out of everything this week. Kansas City number 3 in the offensive pass protection and run blocking. Vegas 31st and 21st in stopping the run. There is playoff implications here. Starters should be in. Kansas City should be out to move the ball very effectively in this particular matchup. Keep that in mind. Vegas 6th in the offensive pass protection. Kansas City 6th in pass rush. Pretty even up there. Usually when that's the case, there's no super advantage. People who are good at football usually do really well in these matchups. In the offensive run blocking, Vegas number 1, Kansas City 22nd. Big favor there for the Vegas offensive line there and running the ball. I'd expect them to be the most effective running the ball and being able to handle themselves in the offensive pass protection there. You kind of decide who you think is going to be playing and the biggest beneficiaries of that. Getting into the next game here. I know it says Monday Night Football up there, but that's still the Saturday game. Jacksonville hosting Tennessee as 6.5-point home favorites. Jacksonville 23.25 team implied total. Tennessee 16.75 Vegas game total 40 overall. And getting into the Tennessee offensive pass protection, 28th versus Jacksonville's 29th pass rush. Tennessee should have time to throw the ball a lot more than they're perhaps used to in this particular matchup. So keep that in mind. On the run blocking side, perhaps what Tennessee wants to do, but 15th versus number 5 for Jacksonville's defense there and stopping the run. I'm not sure how effective they will be, on the run blocking side versus, having a little bit extra time there in the pass game. Keep that in mind. Both these teams playing for their playoff lives, so it should get interesting in that sense that they're, actually fighting to do well. On the Jacksonville offensive pass protection side, number 4 versus Tennessee 25. That's a pretty big favor for Jacksonville. I'd expect them to have a lot of time to throw the ball. It's going to favor the pass catchers there, especially looking at the run blocking. Jacksonville 28th versus Tennessee's number 1. It's more of a fade Ettiene kind of week. I would expect Jacksonville to dominate in the pass game and be very effective that way. All those pass catchers there are certainly in play in this particular matchup. And that's going to do it for the Saturday games. Let's get into the Sunday games here. First one we have is New York Giants going into Miami. Miami 3.5-point home favorites, 20.25 team implied total for Miami, just 16.75 for the Jets. 37 Vegas game total overall, dead last on the slate at 14th. The Jets, number 17 in the offensive pass protection, Miami 16. Pretty even matchup there, but I think that's going to be how the Jets move the ball in this particular matchup, or it's going to be how they have to move the ball. Again, pretty even there. And really, like I said, that's going to be how they move the ball because the run blocking is so poor. Number 32 for the Jets, number 4 for Miami. Would expect that run game to be very poor, and that's a fade. Miami's going to have to, or the Jets are going to have to move the ball via the air attack in this particular game. Getting into the Miami side, they're number 12 in the offensive pass protection. Jets number 11, even up there. Same thing with the run blocking, number 9 versus number 8, even up there. Really, even across the board there, except for the Jets' run game is really poor. Let's keep that in mind. That's going to be kind of how this game operates. I do not believe there's any playoff implications here, so keep that in mind when you're going through who's going to be out there, who's not going to be. But it looks like fairly even matchups. Avoid the Jets' run game in this particular matchup. Next one on the slate, Cleveland heading into Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh 2.5-point home favorites, 40 Vegas game total overall, which is actually 8th best on the slate. Pittsburgh 21.25 team implied total. Cleveland 18.75 team implied total. Cleveland 15th in the pass protection. Pittsburgh 23rd. A little bit of a favor there for Cleveland. Expect them to have some time to pass the ball. And I think that's going to be how they move the ball in general because they're run blocking number 19 versus Pittsburgh number 9. Not very effective there. Again, no playoff implications for these two particular teams. Playing for nothing. Who's going to be out there? I don't know, but Cleveland should have some time against Pittsburgh in the pass game and not be as effective in the run game. For the Pittsburgh side, they kind of got two beneficial matchups. Number 11 in the pass protection, Cleveland 14. It's pretty even up there, but the DVOA for Pittsburgh number 10 versus Cleveland 29. I'd expect Pittsburgh to be able to have some explosive plays there in the pass game. I think that favors George Pickens if he's out there. Don't know who else it would be. For their pass catchers that they would want to trot out there in a meaningless game. Pittsburgh number 10 in the run blocking though, Cleveland 28. I expect Pittsburgh to be able to obliterate Cleveland in the run game here. You decide who you think it's going to be running the ball, Najee Harris, Jaylen Warren. I think those are your best bets, but it could be one of those Jaylen Warren weeks where he just kind of stomps all over Cleveland at home in a meaningless game. One of those Week 18 darlings. Getting into the Indianapolis matchup, we have Indy actually favored 2.5 points at home, 20.25 team implied total, 17.75 for Houston, 38 Vegas game total overall, second worst on the slate at number 13. Houston 13th in offensive pass protection, number 8 for Indianapolis. Unfortunately for them, that is the best matchup of the two. They're down by 5 there. It's not astronomically bad for them, but they're probably going to struggle to move the ball in the air a little bit. Getting into the run blocking, Houston 31st, Indianapolis 6th. They're going to struggle really bad in the run game. So Houston's going to have to, pass the ball to be effective, and that matchup isn't very good. So I'd expect Houston to really struggle in this particular game. Indianapolis 29th in the offensive pass protection, Houston 15. Indy should not have a lot of time to throw the ball. Again, this is a meaningless game, but doesn't look like Indianapolis will be very effective. In their pass game, they're going to need quicker passes, dump offs, things like that. The run blocking is going to be probably how Indianapolis moves it. They're 26th, which is poor, but for them, Houston 25th in stopping the run. Pretty even there, so I think if Indianapolis is going to move the ball, it's going to be on the ground. This is just going to be an ugly matchup. 38 Vegas game total. I'd be surprised if it hits that. If it's a preseason game and we're playing backups, it's certainly possible, but it could be even worse. Wouldn't be surprised to see this one end, in a 10 to 13 style score or something like that, where they don't even hit 30 points combined. Another Sunday early game here. Tampa Bay heading into Atlanta as 4-point road dogs. Atlanta favored by 4, 22.25 team implied total. Tampa Bay 18.25 team implied total. 40.5 Vegas game total overall. 7th best on the slate actually at 40.5 there. Keep in mind, nothing to play for. Tampa Bay trying to probably not get any injuries heading into the playoffs in this particular matchup. Atlanta out of the playoffs, probably just looking to evaluate their talent. Tampa Bay number 1, Atlanta 32nd in the pass rush. Doesn't get any better than that, but as I said, Tampa Bay probably going to have some backups in there. But they should be still pretty effective against this Atlanta defense. I think they're poor enough that even backups for Tampa Bay should be, an even matchup perhaps. On the run blocking side, Tampa Bay 29-31 versus Atlanta's run stopping unit. Tampa Bay should be also effective running the ball here. I'd expect even backups for Tampa Bay to be able to move the ball in this Atlanta defense, even if they're starting, their best players. On the Atlanta side, Tampa Bay has got some backups in there. I do like their chances of running all over Tampa Bay. They're number 5 in the run blocking, Tampa Bay 11. That's the best matchup, as their pass protection is number 25, Tampa Bay number 10. I think that'd be very good for Tyler Allgeier if he's out there playing, but just keep in mind, nothing to play for there. Probably evaluating talent. I think could get a little interesting there with Tyler Allgeier, though. Let's get into the next game. Carolina versus New Orleans, another NFC South matchup here. Saints favored by 3.5 at home, 22.5 team implied total for New Orleans, 19 for Carolina. Vegas game total 41.5 overall, 5th best on the game slate, or on the slate for this week. Carolina probably going to be best running the ball here, number 8 in the run blocking. Saints number 20 in stopping the run. That's going to be their most effective matchup. Saints actually number 2 in the pass rush versus Carolina 19. If Carolina does pass the ball, it's going to need to get out in an underneath fashion or out quickly. Tight end targets, running back targets, things like that. But Carolina most effective in the run game there, 8 versus 20 in a dome. The Saints number 22 in the offensive pass protection. Carolina 26 in the pass rush. A little bit of a favor there for New Orleans. Expect them to have an okay time as far as that's concerned. Who's going to catch these passes? I don't know. But run blocking for Saints number 12, Carolina number 10 at stopping the run. Pretty even up there. You're going to have some talent to overcome a matchup like that. And Kamara, is he going to be out there? He's certainly talented, but keep that in mind. I think Saints pass game a little bit slightly better matchup than their run game. Just should be a dud style game in general. Nobody playing for anything. Getting into the New England and Buffalo matchup, we have this one with some playoff implications here. New England can make the playoffs, I believe, if they win. Buffalo 25.25 team implied total as 7-point home favorites. New England 18.25 as the underdog. Vegas game total 43.5, which is actually second best on the slate at 43.5. They're the second best game total on the slate. Buffalo is 25.25. I think that's top 4 as far as team implied totals. Getting into some ugly matchups here, though. New England 27 versus Buffalo 17 in the pass rush. Buffalo's pass DVOA is very effective at number 3, New England 25. I would expect New England to be a little bit under duress here, needing to get the ball out quickly. That's better for the underneath routes and some of these dump offs. Don't expect them to be explosive either based off of the DVOA. Even worse, run blocking matchup for New England in their pass game, 18 versus number 2 for Buffalo. Again, same thing with the DVOA. New England not going to be explosive, 25 versus 5 in Buffalo. I don't expect New England to move the ball very effectively in this particular matchup. If anything, it's going to be those that are running these underneath routes and getting those dump offs that are going to be the best producers in terms of fantasy this week. Getting into the Buffalo offensive side, they're pretty, they're kind of behind the 8 ball, but not as bad as New England. It's number 9 for their pass protection versus New England, number 4. Run blocking, 16 for Buffalo, 13 for New England. I think Buffalo may struggle to move the ball in this particular matchup, but just not as bad as New England. Again, they're probably going to play some spirited football for Damar Hamlin there. Winning this one for him could get emotional. Crowd should certainly be raucous, which could inspire the players here to be a little bit better than this particular matchup suggests. But keep in mind, it looks like it's going to be maybe a struggle bus fest on this particular matchup with both offenses trying to move the ball. Getting into this Baltimore-Cincinnati game, it gets a little interesting here with the playoffs. Cincinnati, they already won the division technically, but if Baltimore wins this particular matchup, they can get a coin toss and host a playoff matchup against Cincinnati, even though Cincinnati is the technical division winner in this 2022 season. Interesting nonetheless. Vegas game total 39.5, 10th best on the slate. Cincinnati 24.25 team implied total as 9-point home favorites. Baltimore 15.25 team implied total. Baltimore actually has the better matchups of the two. 21st in offensive pass protection, Cincinnati 28. Doesn't sound like Lamar Jackson's going to play, unfortunately, for Baltimore. Run blocking for Baltimore, number 17 and 17. That's kind of a studs eat. People who have talent can overcome. I think that's J.K. Dobbins. He should be pretty good in this particular matchup. Cincinnati's offensive pass protection, number 18. Baltimore, number 5. Baltimore should be able to get after the quarterback there. But this has been the case the entire year, and we've seen Cincinnati actually overcome these terrible matchups, or probably just means Joe Burrow's extremely good at football as they overcome some of these matchups where their offensive pass protection middle of the road or slightly worse in playing some of these really good pass rush teams, and they still succeed. The run blocking is a little bit better matchup for Cincinnati, number 14 versus Baltimore 16. It's pretty even, but it is the better of the two matchups. I'd expect Cincinnati perhaps to be a little bit more effective running the ball than they've been this year. It's been kind of a inefficient, process for them this year. Sunday early game still going here. Minnesota heading into Chicago as 6-point road favorites. 24.25 team implied total for Minnesota, just 18.25 for Chicago. 42.5 Vegas game total overall, 4th best on the slate. Minnesota, pretty good pass protection, 13 versus 30 on Chicago's pass rush. I expect Minnesota to have plenty of time to pass the ball in this particular matchup. Getting into the run blocking side, Minnesota 27, Chicago 26. Pretty even up there. If you got a lot of talent, you can overcome that. Minnesota does have Dalvin Cook. Is he going to be out there? Who knows? But just keep in mind, Minnesota should be very effective moving the ball in the air. Ground game also looks like they should be somewhat effective. I think that's going to lead to a lot of Minnesota, drives just being very successful and continuing, long sustained drives and scoring some points there. Chicago's offense, number 32 in the pass protection, that's dead last. Fortunately for them, Minnesota 24th in the pass rush. Maybe Chicago gets a little bit extra time compared to what they're used to, but Nathan Peterman in there, don't expect him to be very effective, but we'll see what that means for Chicago in this particular game. It's not good though. Their run game is a lot better. Number 11 versus 15 on Minnesota side. It's pretty close, but that's the better of the two matchups. I'd expect Chicago to be able to run the ball a little bit more effectively in this particular matchup than in the air. Keep that in mind when setting your lineups. Getting into the next game, finally we're getting some afternoon games here. Rams visiting Seattle. Seattle 6-point home favorites, 23.75 team implied total. Rams 17.75 team implied total. Again, 6-point home favorites for Seattle. 41.5 Vegas game total overall, 5th best on this slate. Rams really poor in the pass protection, 31st. Seattle number 12. Expect Seattle to be able to get after the Rams. Quarterback, it's going to need to be quicker throws to the tight end and the running backs and anybody running some underneath routes there. You decide who that's going to be. For the Rams, playing for nothing. The Rams run blocking, though, a little bit better. 21 versus 24 for Seattle's defense. I think the Rams are going to be, a lot more effective running the ball than they will be throwing the ball, and I think that's going to be how they attack this particular matchup, is trying to run the ball down Seattle's throat. Unfortunately for Seattle and their playoff hopes, they have two pretty bad matchups here. Number 24 in the pass protection versus 13 in the pass rush. Number 30 for Seattle's run blocking, Rams 14th in stopping the run. Two subpar matchups for Seattle. I think they struggle in this particular matchup to move the ball. I think with the Rams run blocking being a slight favor for them, the Rams can keep this close, and I don't like Seattle's chances of even being successful in this particular game. I think this is one of those upset alerts for the Rams where they can spoil Seattle's playoff chances by beating them in this particular matchup. Getting into the next game, Philadelphia hosting the Giants as 14-point home favorites. Number one best team implied total on the slate, 28.5. The Giants 14.5 team implied total, one of the worst I've seen. For a 43-point Vegas game total, third best on the slate. Getting into the Giants pass protection, 26. Philly, number one in the pass rush. Expect the Giants to be under duress. They're going to need to get the ball out quickly. That's going to be, underneath targets. That's going to be tight ends. That's going to be running back targets, and those running the underneath routes. Offensive run blocking, though, for the Giants, 25 versus Philly, 23. A little bit better of a matchup there for the Giants run game. I think that's going to be their most effective aspect, but if they have Jordan Davis in there for Philly, that's not going to be very good for the Giants. I just think the Giants likely struggle to move the ball and score points in this matchup. Getting into the Philadelphia side, number 20 in the pass protection, Giants 22nd. Philly should have, a normal amount of time to throw the ball. These types of matchups favor those who are very good at football, usually will, overcome this. Fortunately for Philadelphia, they have three excellent pass catchers. Dallas Goedert, very talented, Devonta Smith, and A.J. Brown. I'd expect them to be pretty good. And as far as the DVOA is concerned, this is suggesting they'll have some very explosive plays. Number 1 versus number 32 in the past DVOAs there, favoring Philadelphia's offense. So expect them to have some very explosive pass plays. Getting into the run game, Philly number 7, Giants 29. Huge favor for Philly's run game. DVOA very similar here. Number 2 for Philly, number 28 for the Giants. I would expect Philly's run game also to be very explosive. Wouldn't be surprised to see Philadelphia have their starters out there because they do need to win this game. But by halftime, midway through the third quarter, it's 24 to 30 points for Philly. Giants really struggling, sitting at 3 to 10 points. At that point, Philly pulls their starters. Just keep that in mind. I think that's how this game's going to go. Getting into another game with a 14-point Vegas line, we have San Francisco hosting Arizona as 14-point home favorites. 26.75 team implied total for San Francisco, and one of the absolute worst Vegas game totals ever. Arizona 12.75. 39.5 Vegas game total overall, number 10 on the slate. Arizona number 16 in the offensive pass protection, San Francisco 19. Arizona 24th in run blocking, San Francisco number 3. I would expect Arizona to very much struggle in the run game. If they're going to be moving the ball at all, it's going to be in the air. Who's going to be catching those passes is up to you, but that's how this offense is going to look on Sunday. San Francisco's offensive pass protection number 8, Arizona 27. Very good in the favor of San Francisco's offense there. San Francisco's run blocking number 4, Arizona 18. Very good for San Francisco's offense in that one too. Expect San Francisco to be able to move the ball. There is playoff implications for seeding on this. San Francisco will need to win this to ensure that they get home field advantage. They could know prior to coming into this game, though, that they are kind of secure in where they are. But actually, with the Philadelphia game, they will need to kind of start their players for the first half. If they see what I'm expecting in that Philly game, they'll know they don't have a chance at the number 1 seed, and then it'll probably be the same situation where they're pulling starters. Just keep that in mind. I think San Francisco is going to be up big in this, just like Philly, and that's going to be more so probably leaning in the run game to finish it out. Next one on the slate, Chargers going into Mile High Stadium there in Denver. Denver actually 3-point home favorites, likely because the Chargers have absolutely nothing to play for. 39.5 Vegas game total, 10th best on the slate. Denver has 3-point home favorites, 21.25 team implied total. Chargers 18.25. Chargers number 10 in the pass protection on offense. Denver 18. That favors the Chargers having some time to throw the ball. Who's going to be catching the passes? Who's going to be throwing them? You decide. Run blocking, similar situation. Chargers 23, not very good. Denver even worse at 27. Chargers should, be okay running the ball. You're going to need some talent to kind of overcome some of that stuff. I'm not sure if that's going to be Eckler or someone else running the ball there, but I think it's going to be someone else. If I had to bet in this particular matchup, keep that in mind. Getting into the Denver side, number 30th in offensive pass protection. Chargers number 9 at getting after the quarterback. Would not expect Denver to have time to throw the ball. It's going to need to be more underneath targets, quicker routes, running back, tight end, and underneath wide receivers, getting the main benefits from this particular matchup. For Denver, though, the run blocking is a little bit better, 20th versus 30th. I'd expect Denver to be able to run the ball a little bit more effectively than they pass the ball. And really, with this game being fairly meaningless, I think that's going to be how Denver attacks the game. And this is probably going to be pretty low scoring, just as Vegas is predicting. I know this says Sunday Night Football, but it is not. Dallas heading into Washington as 7-point road favorites. Dallas 23.5 team implied total. Washington 16.5. Vegas total 40 overall. Keep in mind here, Washington is out of it. They have no chance at the playoffs. It seems like they might be starting some backups all over the place. Running backs, top 2 are out. It looks like Jonathan Williams and some backups there. Probably getting some talent evaluation. Just keep that in mind. Dallas number 5 versus Washington number 7 in the pass rush. Pretty close there. If this is a normal game, you're going to see CeeDee Lamb and Dalton Schultz likely as the favorites from Dak being effective in this particular matchup. On the run blocking side, slight favor for Washington's defense at number 7. Dallas 13th in the run blocking. Again, it seems like they're going to be starting some backups perhaps in this particular matchup. Just keep that in mind. Dallas might be a little bit more effective than they're particularly used to if they're facing some backups. But that's the matchup. I think the pass game a little bit better than the run game for Dallas. Washington offense, 23 in the pass protection. Dallas number 3 at getting after the quarterback. I would expect Washington to need to get the ball out quickly. More underneath targets going to be favored for Sam Howell in this particular matchup. He is getting a start. Unfortunately for him, it doesn't seem like he's going to get a lot of time to throw the ball. It might lead to some more scrambles, but not looking like a great matchup for him for his first start in Week 18 of 2023 here. Dallas, number 12 in stopping the run. Washington, 22nd in offensive run blocking. I'd expect them to be pretty poor in moving the ball. Again, unfortunately for Sam Howell, it doesn't look like he's going to get much help trying to move the ball against his Dallas defense with the offensive line that they have. Washington likely struggles. Again, they're at a 16.5 point total. I'd expect them to struggle to get that. Getting into the final game on the slate. It says Monday Night Football, but this is actually Sunday night football. Detroit heading into Green Bay. Green Bay 4.5 point home favorites. This is the number 1 game total on the slate at 49. Green Bay 26.75 team implied total. Detroit 22.25 team implied total. Getting into the pass protection for Detroit, they're number 2 on offense. Green Bay 20th at getting after the quarterback. Detroit should have plenty of time to pass the ball, which is good for them. I expect them to be effective in the air game. Winner of this game could go on to the playoffs. If Green Bay wins, they're in. If Detroit wins, they do need, I think, a little bit of extra help with like a Seattle loss to make it in, but I don't think Seattle's going to win either. Getting into the run blocking, Detroit also very good. Number 6, Green Bay dead last at 32. If this game is in full blast, winner take all type mode, Detroit should be very effective in moving the ball against Green Bay in this matchup. So keep that in mind. They should be very good. Green Bay, number 7 in offensive pass protection. Detroit, 21st. Big favor there for Green Bay's offense in the pass game. They should be very effective. In the run game, they should also be very effective. Green Bay, number 2. Detroit, 19th. Basically, good matchups across the board for both offenses. 49 game total. If this game ends up being winner takes all, Detroit wins, they're in. Green Bay wins, they're in. I see this being a slugfest. I wouldn't be surprised to see it, run up into one of the teams in the 30s, another in the upper 20s. And really, that Vegas line of 4.5, I think it's going to be a lot closer than that in this particular game if it is winner take all. Just keep that in mind. Should be a very interesting game indeed, and I hope it is the case where winner takes all, because I would like to see some fireworks in the last game of the year. Anyway, that's going to do it for this particular matchup edition, week 18 of the Adjusted Line Play Report. Basically, I tell you how the game's going to go. You decide who are going to be the effective beneficiaries of those matchups. Thanks for watching, folks. It's been a pleasure to serve you in the 2022 NFL season. Let's go out there, win some money together. Have a good one, folks. Enjoy the new year. Enjoy the off season. Thanks for watching this year, and appreciate it. Bye.